Getting audio.
Everyone. At this particular time, we will excuse talking with food in your mouth. Because I know you all are enjoying this wonderful food. I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank the library system in general, but in particular the Bush Library of Anne Arundel County for allowing us once again to host State of Black Annapolis for Black History Month in the city of Annapolis in the mayor's office. My name is William Rowel. I'll be your host this evening. That wasn't my fault.
Yes, it was.
But before we begin tonight's panel, what we want to do is, if you look on your seat, it should have been on your seat, there's a sheet that has the lyrics to Lift Every Voice and Sing. And what we'll be doing is all joining in singing some of those verses. It is quite possibly the longest song ever written, if anyone knows that song from being in church. But I think this might be, a shorter version of it. So if you have your sheets, you will get ready with Shahid. Tonight's panel discussion is live streamed on the City of Annapolis' website, Facebook page. So if you all want to simultaneously check that out as well. But I said that because we want to be sure that your singing is up to par before it streams live to the 5 million people that are watching this. All right? all so much. As we begin tonight, I want to remind us that the theme for tonight is rooted in revolution, 250 years of Black history in Annapolis. This is, once again, our State of Black Annapolis series, which is every Tuesday. And before we begin our panel discussion, I want to remind you all that Senator Shanika Henson is supposed to give remarks. We know that she's incredibly busy and there's a lot going on tonight. So when she does come, we'll give her an opportunity to speak to you all. And for those of you who have experienced her words, you'll understand how eloquent she is and how prescient always her points are. So as we begin our panel discussion, remembering that today is about building community, faith, education, and Black institutions looking through that lens. I also want to acknowledge and thank the mayor's office. I want to thank Laura, who's back there. If you all turn around and give it up for Laura. I want to thank Adetola Ajayi, who's the brainchild of the State of Black Annapolis. And I think this is our third year doing this, Tola? Fourth year. That's right. I want to thank Lavelle, who's right there in the back against the wall. I want to thank Romeo. And I don't see Farouk in the room, but I also want to thank Farouk for his contributions and what he's done tonight. And also Tiana, who I think might be out of the room also. And of course, this evening, this is brought to you by our new mayor, Jared Littman. So can we give it up for Mayor Littman? So starting our panel off this evening, I'll begin on the far left, and we have Dr. Randy Rowel, who is an educator. Yes. I happen to, this is my dad, by the way. So, yeah. Just want to clear that up, that there's a conflict of interest here before we begin. Next up, we have and our next panelist is Mr. Archie Trader. And Mr. Trader, they're each going to give you an introduction and give you background on what qualifies them to speak about Black Annapolis. But Mr. Trader was the former director of the Department of Recreation and Parks for the city of Annapolis. And our next panelist is Mr. Derek Matthews, who has been in my life for most of it, and who comes highly qualified as someone who's worked in local government, county government, federal government. It runs the gamut, and he is also a product of the city of Annapolis. So, Derek Matthews. So building on our theme of building community through faith, education, and Black institutions, I would like each of you all to give a brief intro about what qualifies you to speak about the state of Black Annapolis and a little bit of your background.
Other than you asked us to?
Exactly.
Dad, you want to go first? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Hold it up. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am fresh out of the tactical teaching mode, so if my wife is watching, I did not have time to change my clothes, honey, but I'm here, amen. So again, I'm Derek Matthews. I'll give you a brief history of who I am from an Annapolis standpoint. I am the product or the son of Reverend Callie Matthews, who's passed. I'm the grandson of another pastor, Clarence I. Johnson, who was at Town Neck and a few other churches. So my faith begins there from my roots. I am now in the journey myself. Both of my parents were prominent business people. We've owned from fish stores to to limousine services, to Annapolis Cab for a number of years, Annapolis Limo. If anyone has any idea of what now is called the Jetty over on the Eastern Shore, my father built that place. It was called Portside Inn. I watched that come up from the ground. My mom's last project, from a business standpoint, she opened the first art gallery right here at the Circle at West Street, where the West End was. She was here a pastor for 20 years. One of her assignments was over in Eastport for about 7-8 years in Eastport, Mount Zion. So there's my roots from an Annapolis perspective. My mom was integral in the Boys and Girls Club for years. I went to Key School. I was the first graduating class from Broadneck some time ago. We'll leave it at there. Go Broadneck. And I'll leave it there from a standpoint of the Annapolis side or history of Anne Arundel County. I worked for 2 county executives. I worked for Steve Shue for 4 years, Stuart Pittman for his first term, and then going into his second, I moved over to the police department to stand up the body camera project, where all of our officers now are equipped with body cameras. That was one of my projects that I stand tall on. And my last project there was I established a reentry program inside the police department, which you all now have seen mirrored at Annapolis City Police Department with Rob Horn. So there's the beginning of my roots, if you will, and I'll pass the mic and I'll come back a little bit later. I think we have to share a mic.
Okay, that's cool.
Doesn't go too far.
Okay, great. Hello, my name is Archie J. Trader III. I am the son of Archie J. Trader II and Miss Joanne Trader. Matriarch of my family is Miss Hattie Smith, who moved to 76 Clay Street in 1938. My mother was born on Carroll Street in 1937, when Carroll Street did not have the comptroller's building there. Black people lived on that street. As was mentioned, I am the former director of Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department, and I'm also the former manager of the Stanton Community Center. As a student at Morgan State University, it took me 22 years to graduate, but I graduated as a physical educator. And I'm gonna tell you a little story, and I'm gonna tell you why it's so important and what makes Annapolis so special in the relationships that we have. Mr. Randy Rowel to my left was the chair of the health department at Morgan State University. It was my last semester, and I said, Randy, I need $2,000, man. I don't even know how I'm gonna graduate. He said, I got $2,000 for you. Just do this for me. And I did it, and I graduated. So that's friendship. That's the camaraderie and community, you know, that is so real prevalent in Annapolis, you know. And you know, my mother would tell me about his father, and they grew up in the same community. And so, you know, that's important in Annapolis, and I think that's what makes Annapolis so special. Thank you.
Testing. Well, again, thank you for inviting us to be here. Both these gentlemen on my right are connected to me in more ways than one. Your mother, I lived door to for 10 years of my life at Mulberry Hill. I lived in Eastport, not down the street from Archie. And the work he did at Morgan was a grant I had, okay, so.
I was wondering what that thing was.
Just let y'all know, it was all good, and I needed someone to coordinate something, and I chose who better than my friend, who years ago I used to block his shot all the time. I won't say anything about that. But he was awesome. He was quite a basketball player. in his time, and that's what connected us even as adults. So just a little bit about me. I am Randy Rowell. I'm from Mulberry Hill, Brownswood area. However, through family challenges, I lived in a number of places in Annapolis. We moved from Mulberry Hill to Forest Villa, where Cecil Burton developed. We're talking about history, right? So I'll share a little history as I go along. But keep in mind that everything I just said, everything we just said is now what? History. So when I look at people like Cecil Burton, who developed Forest Villa off of Forest Drive and the community in Bestgate Road, he developed that as well. But he was also my mentor. So he taught me things of the importance of not going alone by yourself and always helping people along the way. And that's why I reached out to Archie in his time of difficulty and said, let me help the brother out. So my life expanded, and I went on to down Eastport on 5th Street, a couple doors down from Pittmore, in fact. I also lived in Harbor House in its early development, and I then also lived at Allen Apartments. When my folks split up, I went to Allen Apartments, and my family, all 7 of us, if you know Allen Apartments, that's tight.
Yes, indeed.
So,
Yes, indeed.
and then I came, and eventually my wife and I, D-Rail, we ended up back in Allen Apartments, living there as a couple and soon to be married couple. But yeah, that's how many places in Annapolis that I lived, which helps me to understand why I understand so many of you in this room. So I just, in a short brief, I graduated from Morgan. I went to Utah, Go West Young Man, and ended up getting my master's at University of Utah, and then later came back to Annapolis, started a couple of nonprofits, Arundel Development Institute, which was training low income in computers in the 1980s. So our portable computers weighed 80 pounds. That's where we were, all right? And so I've started a couple and then went on to college and went back to college after working with a group called Planning Action Committees of Anne Arundel County, which was a coalition of public housing residents. And from there, I got my doctorate degree, went to University of Maryland, got my doctorate degree. And then 20 years later, come back to Morgan to be a faculty and eventually a department chair. Now, that's a story, all right? Because you all don't know my full story and all those corners I used to sing on and all those things that people will say are not right, but today I'm a new creature in Christ.
Amen.
So just know that that's where my roots come from. And I'm proud to say that Reverend Charles Green was my grandfather, and Beatrice Green, my grandmother. Reverend Charles Green was the first African-American supervisor at the United States Naval Academy. So we, all of us could sit down and tell our stories because we are heavily connected in this city.
All right. Thank you all so much for that introduction. So I think you all would agree they're a little qualified to speak about the state of Black Annapolis. Right now, we just received word that Senator Hinson is tied up, but we do have Beryl Downs, who is more than capable of handling that. So I want to introduce you all to Beryl Downs. I'm sure most of you all know her.
Thank you. Let's give a hand to this panel. Wow, they didn't tell me you all were going to be here. I would have waited for the senator. Thank you for being here. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. Senator Hinson, as you know, we are in the midst of the 90-day legislative session, and I left her weary-eyed in committee. I took her there, walked her there at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and she has not moved from her seat. I have gone several times with chocolates, some water, some phone messages, and notes saying, we gotta go and what we gotta do. But she is there doing the business of the people. Amen. So thank you for your indulgence. But she asked me to say, welcome. Welcome. It is her honor as the senator for the capital city to welcome you to this Black History series. Rooted in revolution, 250 years of Black history in Annapolis. It's a celebration and 100 anniversary of Black History Month celebrations. We ought to just clap for that. This series highlights the resilience, leadership, and contributions of Black Americans in our city from our earliest days to the present. Through these events, we have the opportunity to reflect on the struggles, achievements, and the enduring legacy of Black Annapolis. We celebrate the institutions, the leaders, and the communities that have shaped our city and continue to inspire future generations. We want to thank the City of Annapolis, the mayor, the mayor's office, Adatola, and all those involved, and the panelists, and all those involved in organizing this important series. It is important. Your dedication ensures that these stories shall be shared, preserved, and honored. We recognize the past, we celebrate the present, and we look forward to the future. Thank you, and she is proud, I am proud, to be a part of this meaningful series. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you.
So also, if you all didn't know, Senator Henson is also, a part of the fabric of the people at this table, and me and our family, and she's a champion for all the work that we do, most importantly in the city of Annapolis, but also the Black community in general. So we want to kick this off so my first question to you all as panelists is, what are some Black institutions that were created right here in our community, and why were they so important at various times for Black Annapolis?
So, I mean, we can start with one that we all know. I'm sorry. I'm not used to talking in the mic. That's okay. Let's start with Wiley H. Bates. There you go. A prominent Black businessman here in Annapolis, built one of the most successful institutions in education. Does anybody know Wiley H. Bates also had a grocery store back in the day? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, first Black high school he takes a lot of credit for, but being able to give the residents outside of Annapolis, because folks came from miles to come to Bates to get an education. I'm now down in South County. I bought the old Holt farm. And when I bought the farm, Mr. Holt was telling us years back, they would walk from down in Lothian to come all the way up to school. Can you imagine walking from Lothian to come to Bates to get an education? And he would tell us how he got up in the morning sometimes and hunted before they even came to school, right? But I would just lay the brick for the conversation to start. You said institution, to talk about the importance of Bates. And I'm sure you can carry the torch and continue to talk about Bates in a little more detail of where it is now and the foundation.
In terms of Bates, I can speak from what it meant to us when, as a part of being part of segregated schools and leaving Parole Elementary School and going to, no, I didn't go to Bates. My brother went to Bates. I went to Annapolis High. Whew, boy, was that rough. And coming from a segregated school where they loved you to death, going to a school where you raise your hand and they didn't even call on you. So it was those kind of things that we had to overcome. And so in terms of the institutions that were so important, Bates was definitely one of them. I also look at the importance that Bates played in socialization, recreation, all those things. So what Archie didn't say, historically, he was the first Black African-American rec director in the city. Let's put that on the table. Okay. So let's make sure we understand that history. And so I would just add that from its beginnings, from the 1800, from 1775 to 1800, this is when this city was built, and guess who built it? On the backs of enslaved people, this city was built. all right? And even though, so that was you're talking about institutions, they built the city, how about that? And then you go on, you look at other institutions like the church. My church is over 185 years old. It was an offspring of an Asbury church on West Street. Then we came. But it was so much church going on even before, during enslavement time. We had to go to other churches, St. Margaret's Church, to get buried and married, but nonetheless, we never lost our love for God. So the church is a very important institution because out of those churches came leaders like you. And when we talk about history and we talk about why we selected us, well, I would say that everyone in this audience is a historian. And when you tell your story about your family, then you have become an ambassador for African American history. Mm-hmm. So I just encourage you to tell that. But again, the churches, and we could go on with Mount Moriah and all the rest of them, they all were interconnected during that time.
Yep. If I can't, were you going to?
I was just going to mention, is my mic on?
Yep.
I was just going to mention the Stanton Community Center, over 115 years old. All my aunts and uncles went there. The photography there, if you ever get a chance to go to the Stanton Community Center, please go there because there's a great amount of photography there that shows pictures of people back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And, you know, I went in there and I could see my aunts on the wall. And the Stanton Community Center was the epicenter of education for the black community because black children could not go to any integrated schools. And in fact, just like Bates, they came from Lothian and Southern Maryland to go to the Stanton Community Center in elementary and in junior high, I guess, what we call middle school today. And the Stanton Community Center was a formal educational center where children not only learned the basic educational academic tools, but you have to understand during those times, you brought your family lessons to school. You know, if you as a student misbehaved, there was corporal punishment in those days, and the same as your mother. And then when you got home, your mother would give it to you again. And those were the teachers, and those how our children were taught in those days. And I was one of them until desegregation. Then they dropped the corporal punishment law.
Before you move on, another institution that I would briefly speak on, for 32 years, I've been a Prince Hall Mason. And I can tell you that in the early 1800s, Universal Lodge 14, right on Clay Street, was a pillar of this community. And somewhere around the 1940s, the lodge actually acquired the building that was built in the early 1800s. But again, Wiley H. Bates was one of our Masonic legacies, if you will. That building right now is on the National Register of Historic Places. And I do know that the city, over the last couple of years, has even provided us a grant to do the refacing of the outside, nothing inside. But your Masons, from a Masonic standpoint, we're talking about faith and community and family and all of those things. The lodge, the Freemason Lodge, from a Prince Hall perspective, was very integral in the process of dealing with elected officials, the building of a lot of buildings you see here in Annapolis. If you go to the northeast corner, you'll see the first brick that was laid, a lot of times was laid by an operative Mason as well as a speculative Mason, in how we develop history, both here in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. And now we also have what's called the Shrine, the Temple, 2Y Temple 228, which I'm also a member, is also a heavy part of the community. So the Masons are here, have been here since the early 1800s as a piece of fabric of this community.
Right. And as you said that, you started off talking about Wiley H. Bates. And one interesting thing that people don't know is he had a hand in that,
Correct.
as well as a hand in the Stanton Center,
Correct.
as well as a hand in obviously acquiring land for other schools and opportunities and businesses and places for black people to live in the city of Annapolis. So he was both an entrepreneur and an investor, and essentially, a broker in the community.
Real quick, well, I know you want to. So the last piece, I like fun facts. I just love people to lead with fun facts. So a group of civilian employees from the Naval Academy, which was a large employer of African Americans, were the initial members of the creation of Universal Lodge. Right. So just process that. They're working at the Naval Academy. They become Freemasons, which was a very difficult thing. That's why Prince Hall established it. And they founded upon themselves to begin a lodge in Annapolis within proximity to the Naval Academy. And there you have now in 2026, Universal Lodge 14.
That's right.
So just want everybody that's a fun fact for you.
There you go. And I want to thank you all for answering that, but I want to take it a step further and talk about some other institutions for the edification of people in the audience who may know, but also probably could stand to know more about institutions like Peerless Friends and American Legion, and what they meant in our communities. But also, I want you all to touch on institutions that may not be readily available as we speak about, such as barbershops.
Okay.
Because I think about barbershops that were downtown in what is now historic Annapolis. But, my dad used to tell me about the barbershop he used to go to. Yeah. So can you all touch on that?
Okay.
Can you all, touch on some of those institutions?
Your question was, initial question you raised was when you said name the institution.
Yeah.
That was a challenge because all these institutions were interconnected. People went to church, they was in the lodge, they were in this, they did not do one thing. They did a little bit of everything. And to keep in mind that even after these folks built this port city, our people, there were free blacks from the 1800s to 1864. A lot of free blacks in this city. So when you talk about business, we had it going on. Like many other places in the United States. So the interconnectedness where one supported, led to, came from the other is very important, I think, to note. And when you're looking at the social clubs like Peerless and American Legion, the importance of these groups as they play to, remember that some people play golf to get information to learn when the next job was coming up, so they had their network, right? But we also had our network, and it was oftentimes in those social networks where we shared what was going on. So other things in sports, I keep emphasizing sports because my uncle Al Green was a professional golf player, and he became a professional golf player because he was playing basketball with Pitt Moyer, and the Pitt Moore, Zastro Sims, and others, that he had a relationship to them, and one of the guys who played with him, who was a county exec, I forget his name, became a county exec, but he also opened the door so my uncle would be the first black golf pro at Eisenhower Golf Course, they called it at that time. So the interconnectedness of these groups, I think, is worth noting, and the community-based organizations that existed as well. So that's the only point I want to make.
Thank you.
And if I can, you mentioned something. We talked about how far the history goes back, and you talked about some folks that were free. We had business ownership in the early 1800s down at the Market House. Lucy Smith had a grocery store in the Market House. Now, obviously, I wasn't around in the 1800s, clearly, but just how far you can go back where we began legacy building. And when Dr. Rowell talks about how we had everything, staying in the barbershop circle, I can remember going to the barbershop was a big deal because going to the barbershop meant my father would drop me off at Leroy's or wherever barbershop I would go to at the time. And that was in that Fourth Ward, everything from our circle, our folks, if you will, happened right there in Clay Street. So if you wanted to own a business, you could talk to John Wright, Mr. Sankey, Happy Brooks. If the pool hall was there, if you wanted to sing on the corner, you had the laundromat. There was the fish man. There was the insurance man. There was the real estate man, Mr. Henson. We had everything that we needed as a community right inside of the community. And then we had, folks like a Lou Hyatt that was connected to a bank that they could, if they needed to, go to as a resource, right? But even that Hyatt family is part of Black history because they were so intertwined in the development and the legacy building of African Americans, right? So I just want to go on record with that, how far back what you're talking about, Dr. Rowell, goes from that barbershop, and that's where you got everything you needed, every piece of information you needed to, I know times have passed, so it's okay for me to say this. We didn't play the lottery back then, right? But you get your everything that you needed could be happening within our community, and we didn't need to go too far, right? And
But then came urban renewal.
But before you get into urban renewal, if I can mention Peerless Wrens in Eastport. My formative years I spent in Eastport. I graduated from Eastport Elementary School, and I graduated from Annapolis Junior High, subsequently Annapolis High.
Yeah, speak up, they can't hear you. I think it's the mic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've been criticized by my voice now. This one? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay. And Peerless, as I would assume, the Elks Club and even the American Legion was very active in children's activities. They supported children's activities. They supported football sports, basketball sports, and baseball sports. We lived in Eastport. First, we lived on 2nd Street, and then when my father came from Vietnam, he had 2 terms in Vietnam, came home, bought a house on 1st Street. The deed said, do not sell this house to any black person or person of African descent. The white people that owned the house said, hell with that. Give me that $250 down, GI down payment, and you got a house. And we carried all the furniture by hand up from 2nd Street to 1st Street. But nevertheless, and then there was Buddy Davis on the corner of 4th and Chester Avenue. My father took me down there. It was the first time in my life that I ever sat at a bar and had a sandwich. But he had a beer, but I had a sandwich and a soda. And it was extraordinary. And when you talk about the barbershops, does anybody know what playing the dozens is? When you go into a barbershop, not only you're right, all the business and the jobs and all of that, but you hear a lot of other stuff too. And you better not go back home and say none of it either.
When the men folk was speaking, right?
yeah,
Right.
And that's a good segue into urban renewal, because everything that they're describing, as a child, I would go, my father worked at Naval Academy, we'd go in town every 2 weeks, get our hair cut, give me $1. I'd go into the corner store, get a piece of pie and a soda and some candy, and still had 75 cents left. Walk down to 5 and dime, get me a tall bag of popcorn with a jumper jack, something, and bought a toy, and still had a quarter left. So this was like, oh man, go to the barber shop, listen to all those things. And then what happened, it was strange, but uptown there was Richie's Drugstore, right? All of a sudden, Richie's Drugstore moves out to Parole, or became Reed's Drugstore, or something like that. It sold. Downtown, there was Acme. Uptown, there was Safeway. And all of a sudden, Safeway and Acme end up out in Parole. So now, everyone to get 2 important things, your medications and your food, had to go where?
Parole.
Out to Parole. Then you had Bywaters, Robinwood, they built all those communities, one way in and one way out, that's it. But they built those communities, which made it very convenient for people to do what? Hey, I'm gonna move to parole because everything is out there. And I will sell my home and leave the fourth ward. And I will sell my home and leave downtown. So we started losing property because they set it up so that we would want to go somewhere else because they moved everything that we needed away from where we were. So that's what I remember as a child in terms of how it changed. And all of a sudden you had all these things that were being taken from us. How many of you have ever heard of Dr. William Bishop? He was one of the founding fathers of the General Hospital in downtown. There was a black man that was one of the founders of that hospital, but you never hear his name. So the history and the things we were doing, I'm not even gonna talk about Dr. Allen and his wife. I was born in a house in Mulberry Hill. I was born in that house, the house that I live in now, in Mulberry Hill, because we could not go to the hospitals, my brother and I. So that was not an uncommon thing. But again, these are the things that urban renewal started moving us in places that we did not have all of the resources we need.
That actually is a really good point, because my next thing I was going to ask is, as these institutions changed, and as our access to these institutions have changed, what role does that play in the current state of Black Annapolis?
What role does it change?
Does that change? So as these resources, as these institutions changed, some for better, some for worse, some just changed, how has that affected, and what role does that play in the Black community in Annapolis right now? And I want to add one more thing, since we're giving fun facts. How many of you all know who the only African American mayor of the city of Annapolis was? Who can name who that was?
Go ahead.
Chambers. And what else was named Chambers in the city of Annapolis?
Where I got my haircut.
Barbershop, that's right, where I got my haircut too when I was little.
And now
So-
we have the Chambers playground.
That's right, and now there's a Chambers Playground and Parole. How many of you all have ever been there? Yeah. All right. So you can go on to what you were saying.
So I think this mic wire is killing me, guys. So I think if I could just pull the tape maybe or something, just. There we go. There we go. Yeah. So I think to answer your question, obviously it's changed to the detriment, right? Because those things, as we are talking about them, for the most part, have moved outside of the city, right? And those services are no longer owned by us, as we're talking about now. But while they don't, doing things like this, I think is important, because the storytelling from whence we came and folks knowing about those things means a lot. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been in your presence, because tonight's not over yet, where we don't talk about land that we owned. And if I can just digress so we talked about barbershops, but we didn't talk about funeral homes, tailor shops,
right.
little grocery stores.
And they own them.
That owned them. Mm-hmm. So while those things and those communities were built, you had people like Mr. Sankey who would build a store in the midst of that and have a place for us to go get some of the stuff that moved away, right? Mm-hmm. But we have to tell those stories to, is it appropriate to say to those youngins, to the folks behind us, so they understand business ownership. Mm-hmm. So we look to folks like Dr. Rowel. You mentioned a computer thing. I remember in the early 80s, correct me, early 80s, like super early 80s, I touched a computer for the first time at Broadneck Church as part of MYF, I think. And you were teaching us the DOS system or something, right? That goes way back. But learning computers from somebody that is sitting here talking about black history and how he went on to more. Folks need to know stuff like that. So I think it's important that the storytelling, because that's what you got in the barbershop. When you went to the barbershop, you left educated. My father would pick me back up after he went and did whatever my father would do while I was getting my hair cut, handling business. When I got back in the car, I was like, whew. Some of the stuff I would talk about, some of the stuff I wouldn't, because he already knew. I just didn't go tell my mother, right? But the reality was I got educated on what was happening because he was trying to fill me with information because in his mind, I was coming behind him to carry on whatever in his mind. And that's what we have to continue to do.
You know, we also have the other institution, as you were speaking, I was thinking about this, and I was also thinking about Tola, and the mural that's in Parole that Tola's on, he's on the mural looking like Tupac. But the institution of the cab, the cab businesses that were owned, before Uber and Lyft and all those came along. But that was a very strong part of the black community, in Annapolis as well, because it gave them an opportunity to go from place to place, get, from work, but also to make money and hire people.
True story, real quick. True story. When my father moved the cab business from George Avenue to West Street, I never forget, I was sitting in the office one day, and he had this look on his face. And he was describing to me that putting that cab office at 202 West Street meant so much to him because he said when he was a little boy, he was not allowed to walk up that street.
Wow. Wow.
When he said that, I got chills because I had to process what it must have felt like to not be allowed to walk up a street. And then as you grow older, now own a business where the cabs that are coming in and out of that office is your business. Now, don't get it wrong. He dealt with a lot of stuff. Those folks did not want that cab business in that neighborhood, and he paid a penalty for it. But he fought it for years as long as he could, right? But that's building legacy. That's sharing stories that answer your question on what we need to continue to do. Sorry, brother.
Thank you.
No, not at all. My father died when I was 15 years old. But before he died, he actually owned a restaurant right outside of Fort Meade. Fort Meade is where I was born. But we lived in Eastport on First Street. And my mother was actually a housewife, never worked a day in her life, but she whipped a whole lot of, believe that. And my buddies used to say, man, boy, you really got it going on. You don't have to go any place to look and find your mother. She's there every day, opening the door. I said, yeah, she's opening the door. She got two things for you. She got a plate of food or a belt. And then I'm the oldest of five, And it was a real experience. He had a soul food restaurant. And an old-fashioned, where they made their own rolls and everything. My brother and I, we cleaned up the toilets. And my youngest brother, he's there behind the kitchen. And we said, man, give us some of them rolls. He said, man, get on that toilet. I said, okay, all right, we'll get you at home. But you're right. It's one of the things that is pretty detrimental today. And I believe, and the reason that we're sitting here right now is basically because of our childhood. And that's where it all begins. That's where it all starts. Today's children have a very dismal childhood and beginning that will be a detriment to their development and adulthood.
Some of them.
Some of them, yes. Yes, you're correct. Thanks for correcting me. Some of them. And it's pretty tough because we don't have the institutions. When I was a director of Recreation and Parks, I started in partnership with Rhonda Pindo Charles, the Annapolis United program, which was designed to capture those children who fell through the cracks, could not afford recreational programming, for one reason or another. And the city gave us $185,000, to capture those children. I remember being a child in Eastport, and I said, look at those kids out on that water with their sailboats. And we had to go, steal our dinghies and get on the water. I mean, that's the truth. So we developed that program, and I actually got children in a program right on First Street, in a sailing program. So this is where we have to really put our energies, put our money, put our resources in. We have to put it into the children. And that's what's happening today that's not happening today that once was what happened before.
I am because we are, I am. So that's the other reason why we sit here, because we're only the products of our community. One thing I've learned over the years in working with on environmental stuff with my son is that when you lose the culture, the land will soon follow. When you don't know the stories of Fourth Ward, of Mulberry Hill, of Eastport, of Parole, of Lothian, if you don't know the stories, the next generation will just think it's just dirt.
That is such a good
It's just dirt.
That is such a good point.
But when you put the history, when you make sure, that's why we're developing trails, a Rivers and Trails project in Mulberry Hill and Browns Woods, because we're going to have placards along this trail to tell our story. And that's where, some of the places that you all are affiliated with, there are grants and things out there where you can tell your story. They're in this room right now. There are a lot of local historians. There are some people who just love collecting history. There's someone in your community. Who is it? Because whoever it is, you need to connect them with these groups. Because if you lose the culture and the information, the land, Browns Woods, will soon follow. Browns Woods does not look like, the ownership has changed drastically due to gentrification. Mulberry Hill a little bit, not as bad as Brown. Skidmore is on the National Registry of Historical Places now. Our church, Asbury Broadneck, is on the National Registry of Historic Places now, largely because of something that's coming in 2032 that's going to change things. And what is that thing that's coming?
A new bridge.
A new bridge.
And so that people know, when he says Mulberry Hill and Browns Woods, so has anyone ever heard of Cantler's? The restaurant? Cantler's is located at the very bottom of Browns Woods. So that entire peninsula is all Browns Woods, and it was essentially an interconnected community of families. All black families, and not just, their only commonality wasn't that they were black. It was they were literally related, and it's tied also to Mulberry Hill, Skidmore, Clay Hill, and it's all connected to also the Whitehall Plantation. Oh, yeah. And so that entire peninsula, the St. Margaret's Peninsula and area, has some extremely unique history. Also history that relates to the city of Annapolis and everything from horse racing to, you name it, farming, everything. So.
Well, before you move on to, I don't know what your next question is, but I feel compelled. We're talking about businesses and the loss of things, but we also have to talk about our black social spaces. Mm-hmm. We've mentioned Peelers. I don't think we've mentioned the Seafarers Club.
Right.
But we cannot walk out Elks. We can't walk out and not talk about Carr's Beach.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So we touched on a couple of things. I remember my daughter being in middle school, and she got an opportunity to participate on a project. She was so consumed at learning the history of Carr's Beach. It was just today, I think she's way more educated on it probably than I am, because she allowed herself to sink into that rich history. And I'm going to make an assumption that everybody in here knows what Carr's Beach is. If you don't, please don't raise your hand and say you don't. Okay? But understanding people like the late Vince Leggett, the Blacks of the Chesapeake, God rest in peace. But folks like that talked about that legacy where everybody, his family's in the back. Hey, what's up? I look right back there. Just understand that when we talk about things like that are social what we did outside of building these business, that social piece was critical in entertaining ourselves. And everybody that was somebody in the music business had to prove themselves coming through Cars Beach. That's a fact, right? So we can't leave out of here and not talk about that. I know you want to say something about that.
It's one thing, because you talk about entertainment.
Absolutely.
And how many of you all enjoyed the music today? Well, the musician back there we played in the marching band at Annapolis High, but he went on professionally and I can name a couple of groups, but the Delphonics, some of y'all probably don't know them.
Yeah.
Bet you by golly, why? And Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes.
That's right.
That's Shahi, Brother Shahi, Mackie, we used to call him. Right
right.
there, your musician. That's what he was. And there were so many more entertainers because that's what kept that stress off of our backs.
Yes.
Music and all that was important because we talk about all these accomplishments we made. It was very stressful.
Yes.
It was not easy. And so it was the music and the dancing and the singing and the things that on that Saturday we could come and just get together and get all that stress off our back.
Or you could enter the Fourth Ward and on two corners. You had brothers, I'm talking singing like y'all haven't heard since I saw it then, where 3 or 4 guys were just, just
Ernie Nutter.
oh my goodness, just jamming on the corner where you would stop and just be entertained. And these guys could sing.
Yes. And let me add another form of entertainment that most people don't even think of. Have anybody ever heard of the Rutgers League
In New York.
in New York City?
Yeah.
The Bakers League in Philadelphia. Then you had the Annapolis League at Chester and 3rd and Chester. And it was a great venue, and I can say that it was probably the first, and correct me if I'm wrong, the first black venue open to the black community, because there was none other that existed. People would come from all over. And guess what? There was no police there. I'm talking about hundreds of people looking at these games. And what made it real special, it was a community league. There was only one team that was not from a particular community. Only one team. All the rest of the teams was from Annapolis Gardens, Robin Wood, Eastport, Hunts Movers, all, because when we lost Jim Danley, we were done, But anyway, it was a very beautiful environment where people just came and they were in awe. They just loved to look at, because see, basketball is more in the black community. It's more than just a game. It's a way of expression. It's a way. It's a cultural way of doing things. The way that we play, the way that we groove. I remember a guy. I saw him at a bar one day, right? And he said, "Man, I saw you in that basketball league. Remember?" And I said, "Well, that pretty boy can't play no ball. I don't know where you got the pretty boy from, but nevertheless, this girl said, 'Watch this.'" He's talking about me, right? I said, he said, "Okay, man, I had to take it back." But anyway, that was a great form of entertainment and relaxation.
So since y'all brought up basketball, let's not forget, let's go over Williams Whalen real quick.
All right.
Flags football. Okay, flag football, the Flames.
Right.
Where you could go over Williams Whalen. Y'all think going to a Ravens game up at the stadium, you see guys hit? If you could turn back the hands of time and go over to Williams Whalen Field and watch flag football with no equipment on, guys hitting just as hard as you see them hitting up at Raven Stadium. And I mean, Will, you break a bone, pop it back in, tape it up, back in the game. And these were guys, some went off to play pro, some played, and when off season, they would come down and play on the field. But that was another form of entertainment by the hundreds. And you would spend the day down at that field watching football. Guys would come down from Baltimore, they would come down from Philly, they would come down, and we'd send them right back on up the road with their tails, because you couldn't come to Annapolis and beat us. It just wasn't going to happen.
And,
right?
and on that same note that Archie even talked about is, I played for Crusaders, and I mean, it's an interesting thing where in Annapolis, where even when I moved back from California, I would constantly run in to people who played with me with the Crusaders, and it's like a memory and something that we share and hold on to, and it's an unspoken connection that we have, and that brings me to looking at contemporary times and into the future, because if we're honest, and I'm sure you all remember, the weekend, whether it was Saturday, it was always something going on. It was football games, basketball games. It was baseball. It was cookouts. It was people coming together, whether you were going to Sandy Point or whether you were just Bay Ridge, anywhere. And so as we look at this right now, a lot of those things are kind of non-existent. And what does that mean for our community now? And what does that mean, and what does it look like in the future? And then I want you all to be aspirational and think about things in which, how we can change that dynamic.
Well, one of the things that you have to look at is socialization and interaction is one of the real cornerstones of success and self-development. And with the young brothers and sisters losing that opportunity, they may get it in other ways. They may get it in school. They may get it in recreation if they're able to be a part of recreational programming. But ironically, in Annapolis, when I was coming along, we did a lot of that ourselves. We went to a neighborhood and said, okay, let's go, let's play. Let's play for this and let's play for that. And we socialized and we walked away without a fight, what somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. A lot of children today don't even play pickup basketball, only outside. You don't see them playing. As director of recreation and parks, my staff said, Archie, don't leave those lights on till 9 o'clock every night. I said no, I'm going to leave them on. But guess who played till the lights went off? Latinos. They out there grooving. They learning the game. And I left the lights on. If that was the case when we were coming along, you would have one court full, and if you couldn't play, you get on the other court. It was just that simple. But today, we just don't have that. Those children they're not self-creative. And nowadays, let's face it, besides playing the dozens, sports was a status symbol. We use that as status. When you walked out your house, anybody could take you to the rack. Anybody. You had to have your game together. The guy next door could do it because everybody could play.
Yeah.
You see?
Yep.
One thing you didn't say, Archie, is at night when the lights went out over Eastport, we had to play till 2 and 3 in the morning with no lights.
Yep.
So we learned how to shoot by feeling where the rim was.
Yes.
And let me tell you, when you learn to play like that, you can hit anything, anytime. I'm going to just respond to the question about the future. Two things, again, the importance of culture and land. But I'm going to add something going back to my 1980s when we were training low-income in computers at the Stanton Center.
Move the mic up.
At the Stanton Center. Technology, the role of technology. So I'm going to say a word, and most of you will go, oh, AI, artificial intelligence. Artificial, and don't get nervous. You all look like when we started bringing those computers over Eastport and Robinwood, and people looked at them like, what's that? And what are you going to do with that? AI is a tool, and every last one of you in here needs to understand what it can do before they get all the bad stuff starts to really happen, okay? AI can be used in Bible study. Go to Gemini, one of those AI tools, and say, summarize the book of James. In 3 seconds, you got the book of James. It's going to speed things up, and if we don't realize it as a tool to help us learn quicker, we will be left behind because we're sitting there looking in encyclopedias And somebody else is taking and putting some words in their phones, and in 3 seconds they got a whole proposal, a whole outline, a whole whatever. So those are some of the things I think that in the future we have to understand. That's important, technology, but moving our kids from inside to outside, outdoor experiences in the woods, in the parks, on the water, in the sky. That's the thing that raises all those questions that we want to know.
Are you still on the future? Okay,
Yeah,
so I kind of felt like a question like that was going to come. So if y'all got notepads, I took the liberty of giving you 4 bullets because I felt like this question was going to come. Collective economics.
Yes, yes.
We have to know that I have a business, he has a business, maybe he has the same business that I have. We are not competitors. We are not competitors. As a business coach, as a life coach, as a leadership, whatever my titles are, I encourage us to go and find out what the guy or gal down the street is doing and figure out collectively how they do it and how we can, you don't have to merge together and create another bit, but learn to work together where if I'm busy, I can't take on something, I send them to Dr. Rowel. I don't say, oh, nope, don't know who can do that, right? That's one thing. Supporting our own. I have seen so many African-American businesses start, fired up, 90 days, 120 days, gone. And then you ask somebody, Brother Rowel, did you and your wife eat there? No. Did you take your wife there? No. Well, how did we expect them to make it? And we didn't go support. I ain't going down there. Somebody told me the service was bad.
Right.
Well, you went on a night where they were short. And that's all you remember now is that's what you're going to tell people about a bad experience. Yep. We have to learn to support each other, and we don't do that. Mentorship. We've got to learn to take folks under our wing. I am proud that I get an opportunity to mentor a young man that I call my nephew, little brother, and teach them the best I can, right? But mentorship is something else. Mentorship is them watching what you do. Don't get that twisted. If you're going to mentor someone, you have to realize that they're watching every single thing that you do. So take on some mentees and help them come along. And everybody's not equipped to be a mentor. Right. Because some of us will go off and say we're going to help somebody do something, and then a month later, they're gone. And now that person is left with that taste like, I'm good. The last 3 people said they were going to help me, didn't, right? And then last but not least, have an ownership mindset. If you're working a job, that's awesome. Now, if you have a vision to stay there for the rest of your life, that's on you. But have a mindset that one day you would like to own said business, right? Have a mindset that you're working this business, putting away, keep working that hobby until that hobby becomes something that you enjoy well enough with, now becomes what you do for a living. Now you haven't created yourself a job. You're now making money from something that you like to do. There's a big difference. But having an ownership mindset is critical. Those are the 4 things that I really wanted to make sure I got off my chest to share tonight when asked about. I felt like that question was going to come.
That was powerful. Thank you.
It's interesting that you would talk about supporting one another in the black community. I want to take you back to a time when there was an underground economy in the black community, especially there on the Clay Street area. This family or mother, grandmother, they would have the fish dinners, crab cake dinners, cookies, snowballs. And this was an underground economy that we sold to each other and we bought from each other. I can literally remember not long ago that a few people would still tell me, man, your father's restaurant up by Fort Meade. These was old timers, right? Man, it was off the hook. It was lovely, good food. They would go up there and they get all this, their soul food, but they would go all the way up to Fort Meade and support him.
Well, I'm gonna ask. I want to ask the audience a question. I'm gonna ask y'all the honest answer, and I'm gonna give it back to you.
No, you're good.
How many of you remember going in a store, getting some goods? Maybe your mom or dad sent you to the store, 5 or 6 things. You got everything they asked you to get. You went up to the counter, and you didn't pay for it. They wrote what you got in a book, and you left with the stuff. Anybody experience that? How many of y'all have no idea what I'm talking about? There was a time you could go in a store in the African American community. We used to do it over Browns Woods, Esther's. You go in the store, get your eggs, your milk, your bread, whatever else it was, some salt, some pepper, some sugar. It was a little book. Miss Esther had a little black and white like journal book. And she would put your name, your family's last name, and the amount. Payday came, your parents would give you that amount, you trot on down Browns Woods Road, go in and hand Miss Esther the money, and she would check it off. I just realized,
And proof.
and proof,
Already has.
had a store like that. Why I'm saying that, because that was supporting the community. Go in a store now and don't have something. You better pray that person in front of you try to pay it forward and you cover it. Because if not, sir, you got to step out of line. Come on, keep it moving, right? You short, right? So I'm just processing how business and economics would actually work. The barter system. I don't have money. You don't have money. But I got the meat. You got the dairy.
United States Naval Academy.
Let's switch. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta some way, somehow get back to some basics. I'm not saying stores need to start putting books inside and stuff. That'd be a disaster right now. We understand that.
Yeah.
But we gotta get back to some basics. And that's why I gave you those 4 points. Because some of that is basic stuff. Ownership mentality, supporting each other, mentoring. That's where that basic stuff comes back.
You know, when people in the community did those kind of things and wrote those little notes for you to pay them back, they didn't go to the police if you didn't pay for them. You know where they went? So you know your son owed me $50? They would spread it around in the community, and you would become you'd be so ashamed that you'd be looking to pay the person. Shame was the game, not the police.
Right.
They would actually, and there were folks who didn't come back to pay. Sometimes I know my grandfather's a first black supervisor in Naval Academy. He used to hide, some guys used to come to work drinking. He would hide them in the closet so that the white supervisors would not see him, and they would lose their job. So that's the kind of called above the iceberg, and then beneath the iceberg stuff that goes on in our community. And those things are largely based on trust.
You know, we also had a couple, I think they call them loan sharks also. But the truth of the matter is, right. I wasn't trying to get personal. I know, no. You know, because one of the points in here is about mutual aid and about being able to collectively get over that hump. And so even though, you know, externally loan sharks would be looked at as predatory or something like that, the truth of the matter is, you know, it was a stopgap between that payday and those bills that were owed with an interest rate, I'm sure. But you know, there are a lot of families now who, to your point, Derek, once they don't have that money and, you know, once those ends aren't being met, once those SNAP benefits are cut and some other things happen, where do they go?
Well, the reality is, in those days, historically, you couldn't go to a bank. It wasn't available to black people. You couldn't go there, and you can barely go there now. But back in those days, if you're black and you walk into a bank and say, "Hey, I want to start a restaurant. Can I get a loan?" They wouldn't entertain you. My father had to go to Little Willie in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
That's
And
the Cars Beach connection too, a little
yeah,
way.
and he got the loan, and obviously he paid the money back, you know. But those are the type of things and that black people had to succumb to because the white financial system and economy did not allow us to participate.
Yep.
So we had to do it on our own.
Thank you. I want to thank you all so much. And we're not finished yet because now I'd like to move to audience questions. So if any of you all in the audience have a comment or a question that you'd like for them to elaborate on, now's the time to do so. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going to stand.
And we need you to speak as loud as you can. Okay, there you go. There you go.
My name is Marvin Harris Watson. I'm the current president of Peerless Friends Club in Eastport. So when I heard you all talking about Peerless, I thought, wait a minute. There are a lot of things that you all touched on, and when Dr. Rowel was talking about the connectivity of Eastport, I'm sitting here going, his father was a member of Peerless Friends, and he used to be across the street from me on Eastern Avenue at Miss Mary's house. Archie Trader went to school with me on First Street, and he was connected to Hicks Funeral Home, Charles Hicks, who was on Forest Drive, and his mother was the pastor at the church, and his father and my father were very good friends. And here you are, Dee, lived at 212 Eastern Avenue across the street from me too. So the black community in Annapolis is like this. Now, Peerless is going through Peerless Friends. Let me first say that yes, there is American Legion and there's the Elks Club. The difference is Peerless is the only private black African-American social club in Anne Arundel County. There are no more Peerlesses. It is membership driven, okay? It is membership driven. We also rent the place out. Right now it's in transition because of COVID. We had grants available that we are now using up. We've applied for more. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the building because Peerless was founded in 1922, incorporated in 1948. So that building has been there a long time. So we're working on revitalizing. We have to come up to ADA standards. But there's a lot going on with that. And if you want to know more, get in touch with me. But what I wanted to say is you were talking about Davis's Pub. Now, I just did something on social media about Davis's Pub because I put Mr. George Davis's picture up there. In Davis's Pub now, his picture may be this small, but when we were growing up, it was a big picture. But the Davis family still owns Davis Pub. They also own probably about 15 properties still in Annapolis. And the reason, and I'm listening to you guys talking about how each community, Brownswood, Skidmore, Eastport, which was in the county, it was annexed into Annapolis when I was growing up. So these black communities became self-sufficient because we could not use the white establishments. So we had the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the numbers runner, everybody, and we all took care of each other. I was not, and I'm still not a big proponent of integration in school because we lost something. Because trying to assimilate the moral fiber of our neighborhoods was torn apart. It was definitely torn apart. I'll give you an example in Eastport. Eastport was 6th Street, no, Bainbridge Avenue, at the corner of Bainbridge Avenue and Chesapeake Avenue to Horn Point. Nothing else was Eastport. The interesting thing is when you came across the bridge where the farm store is, everything from the farm store to the shopping center was white. Eastport was segregated by streets and blocks. Chesapeake Avenue was the main dividing line. If you lived on Back Creek, which was to the right, Chester Avenue and that part, but even like Archie said, part of his street, he and Michelle Randall, there were the only black people on that block. There were no more black people until you almost got to 7th Avenue. So it was a unique experience. And I'm going to segue Gerald Hyman's issue that he has had with building a house for 10 years. That was a street black people couldn't live on. The Crowdies, Miss Easter Crowdy, her husband had to buy a house on 5th Street because black people couldn't buy a house on 6th Street. So one part of Chester Avenue was black. If you crossed over 1st Street, it was white. Eastport has a unique, and it's unique to these other communities as well, because most of the people are related generationally. Daniel Crowdy, who I'm a descendant of, got to Eastport in 1888. So the generations of people that are there. And then we can go back to where on the peninsula of Eastport, and a lot of people don't realize, Eastport was Mount Zion Church Seafarers, which is now Seafarers, was our black school, was our Rosenwald Elementary School. My grandmother went to school where Seafarers is now. Okay? So it gives a little bit of context to where we operated kind of separately. And Eastport people got a reputation. You know, them people over Eastport funny, they don't like that. You know, you can't, Peerless is one of those examples where if you were not from Eastport, you could not do it.
Wow. You need to be on a panel. I'm telling you. You just talk yourself into being on a panel.
You know, I wanted to say that the connection on the peninsula of Eastport is Mount Zion Church, John Wesley, and the cemetery, John Wesley Cemetery. That was Annapolis Neck. That was not Eastport. So I'm kind of taking like, wait a minute, y'all ain't living in Eastport. You know, and then on the other side, and I'll stop because I got a whole lot more, but if you go up the street from Farm Store in the white part of Bay Ridge Avenue, or when you went to the right of 6th Street, on the right there's a little house that looks like a rooming house. That used to be a white whorehouse. When we talk about the dynamics in the community, this is one thing that I asked the president of the Eastport Democratic Club, and this is talking about critical race theory and community relations, because I had a conversation with him, and he had no idea of the relationship between the Eastport Democratic Club and Peerless. There has been none. They're on the other side of 6th Street.
Yeah.
So Peerless is there because the EDC was there, which became the Black Social Organization because they're the same type of club. So we can have, we had a conversation and I asked him, what do you know about the history of these two organizations? And they wanted to do a meet and greet. And I said, I'm not sure what you want to do, but it's going to take us a little introduction to make this happen. But we're not interested in that. Why now? You know, why now? So that, and I said, it'll work itself out. I'm not going to put any more effort into it. We've got a project here to restore Peerless so that it can be in the community and have events that will bring the community in. Some of the things that you were talking about doing, having personal finance fairs, and having people rent the building to have monthly meetings in a Black organization. The one thing I will say, and I want to educate people about Peerless and I'll stop, is it is not a public club. If it's open on Fridays, and what we've done when we open up again, because the whole place, HVAC system and everything is being redone, it is for members and guests. The city gives Peerless 12 public liquor licenses a year. We can serve to guests, members and guests, but if we have a public event, we have to go to the city to request it and tell them what it's all about. So it's not like we're not doing anything where the public's not invited. You have to know a member to come in. But there's more. I just wanted to speak up for Eastport. 5 generations from Eastport, Back Creek. There's a whole lot that went on over there, and I'll gladly share.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your check's in the mail. And also, last thing, does everyone here know where and what Peerless Friends is? It's on Chester Avenue. It's an historic enclave. Right across the street is Butler's Marina, which is Black owned. Right across the street from Davis's Pub and Peerless, and it's owned by the Butler family. If you all don't know that, but there's a lot of history on Chester Avenue. And so we were just talking about Vince Leggett, Blacks of the Chesapeake, and this is his son, Akil. Can you?
I'm going to stand right here.
Okay.
But I just wanted to also touch on Peerless Drink. Let me start with this. Because even told myself we've done events at Peerless. We had a Black Economic Summit there. Mr. Matthews was there. Probably a lot of people on the panel was there. That's what we have to get back to, support. And I think that's what, this has got to be the crux of what we're talking about, not just this month, but throughout the year. And then I'm glad you touched on the churches. Eastport United Methodist Church, we have that. That's tons of other churches in Annapolis. I mean, we can go way out Bestgate. We can go down the road. Derek Matthews, he knows about Lothian churches. He knows about Mount Zion United Methodist. He knows about Adams. If you don't know about that, check them out as well. So it's vast, is what I'm getting at. And it started with churches. So we did a lot of talking about, I'm glad you mentioned church, because that's where it started. So I just want us to also be inclusive and remember the church when we speak about these things, and we want to get to points on how you can reconnect. So let's start. And we don't have to leave at that, but even myself, I need to get back to church. But, you know, but my point is that we need to recognize it though. So if I'm recognizing it, you know, I'm telling my children to go to church. They're like, well, Dad, when do you go to church? Yeah. So, you know, we have to check each other. And that's, it's not about really checks and balances thing, but it's recognition. And we need to remember, we need to recognize where we come from, and be inclusive so that we can let the next generation know what it's about. Church is important.
And also, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
Listen,
Thank you, Vince.
you know, another big institution that I want to throw out also is, that you all have touched on throughout the night, is family. And the family network. And the networks of family, like in Annapolis and surrounding communities, even Tola, even the Pack family, you know, he's a Pack. Anybody familiar with the Packs and the history of the Packs, right? From land ownership to business ownership to churches to everything else. And so all that is interconnected, and it's an extremely powerful thing. DeSheryl Rowell, my mom.
I just wanted to say really quick, because I heard you all talking about the barbershops, but I couldn't sit here any longer without saying the beauty salon.
Oh, yeah.
Amen. Oops. Birdie Cromwell.
Always somebody in our community that we knew that after school, when we were young, we would go there because they would look out for us and they would give the sweep the floor for them. And it was our way of communicating to them was a beauty salon.
That's right. And your sister.
And my sister was a
That's right. Who made $1 million off Jerry curls. If y'all remember that when they were doing them curls.
I had one.
Yeah, when they were doing them curls, boy, they were doing the curls at night. It would be open 24 hours. Excuse me.
Hello, my name is Taja Johnson. I call myself my own family historian. But as you all were talking about the children and getting back to where things need to be, I think our biggest downfall was social media, cell phones, and gaming systems. Because our children are all about the tablets, the screens, they don't get to go outside and do the things that we used to do. We had to figure out how it worked. We got to go outside, we played from sun up to sundown. We came in when it was time to eat, take a shower, take a bath, or whatever, and then the next day we started all over again. So, in thinking about that, at what point do we, as a parent, we as a community say, you know what, put the screens away? When do we get back to the foundational part where when it's time for dinner, you put the phones away and everybody come and sit at the table together and communicate? You know, it needs to be done.
So I'm not a panelist, but I'll tell you this. I grew up under an early adapter. Does everybody know what that is? When any new technology, any new thing came out, they get it first. And my dad, we had a Pong. Anybody remember Pong? That was the first actually the first video game. We had that probably in the 70s. And so I would say, I just want to add this and I want you all to jump in, is like there's this intersection between the reality of human evolution, right? And I don't mean Darwinism, but I mean as things progress and we have more advanced tools that allow us to get things done faster and easier, we can either demonize it and make it something bad, or we can realize that we have to also, especially those of us that are older, we have to adjust to that. Because the truth of the matter is we're not going to reverse time. And young people are not going to have less access to phones and tablets. What we have to do, and I wanted to throw this in there also, I'm going to throw him under the bus, my dad, because what he would do is he would try to come up with fun and interesting ways to also engage us, and not just his children, but also people in the community and other young people, because, whether it was rap music, when rap music came out, he tried to develop a hip-hop song around math, as if that was cool. But it was the idea that you need to take, what we need to do is flip it, right? We need to flip it, and we need to make those tools work for us instead of the other way around. Well, I think what happens is we're letting those tools babysit and raise the children. So I don't think it's bad that we have access to technology, and I think that's what you were saying about AI.
I think that's what's happening is that the black family has lost its culture in terms of, yes, some. Yeah. I'm sorry. Forgive me for making universal statements, and I should be making particular statements, and I'm very, very sorry about that. But some families have lost the culture of the African American culture. I mean, it's really true. Since the beginning of time, the African culture has been matriarchal. Woman runs the house. You have children now, you have mothers now that are scared of their children. The children are running the house. And if you have to find out, if you don't understand I'm going to use the word old school, way of raising your child, of conducting your family, there's ways to find that out. But just be the mother of your family, be the father of your family. I know a lot of fathers aren't there, but my father died when I was 15 years old. My mother raised 5 children, 3 step boys. And she went to the graveyard and cussed them out for leaving them 5 children. But she handled her money. She handled that, And that's just my opinion. That's not rocket science or anything.
I want to just add this key word because it really ties into everything. The word is exposure. Expose children to anything and everything. My father and mother couldn't afford to fly. On Sundays, we drove to the airport and watched the planes take off. Okay, all right? Whatever you can take them to expose them for rides, it doesn't cost, everything is not costing. More of our children need to be exposed to instruments and music. Music is something that it teaches you, it educates about repetitive behavior. When you play an instrument, it's ba ba ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba. Until you get it right, right, Brother Shaheed? Until you get it right, you just keep getting it, and finally it comes together, and then you're playing it without even looking at the paper. So exposure is very important. That's why I think more exposure is needed for our children.
I agree. So here's my piece. We're talking right now a lot about children and these devices. Let me switch gears a little bit. I'm in front of people every day, anywhere in the country on a given day. What I see from adults, we can't beat the children.
Yeah.
So I just went and bought this box, and I'm happy to show it to you guys. It holds 24 phones. Let me tell y'all something. When I'm in trainings now, I sit it up in the back of the class or sometimes in the front. I open my sessions up now, asking everyone to take their phones out, take a selfie, talking about what we're about to do. I did it today. Bring your phone up and put it in the box. Y'all want to see adults pout like children?
Withdraw.
You've seen nothing. People get attitudes. And then when I explain to them why I'm doing it, that I need you to be present in the moment. They're paying me a lot of money to be here today. I could be elsewhere, but I'm here for you. For the next 50 minutes, I need you to disconnect, put your phone in the boxes. Y'all, just as sure as I'm standing here, almost every session, somebody will leave their phone. Wow. I got to say, whose phone is this? Because everybody almost out. Oh, I forgot. Because over a period of time, they realize their office is still going to run. The world's not going to end. But as long as they're on that phone, they're not engaged. So now they take that same thing home, and we expect the kids to disconnect. Kids do what they see. So if we're at the dinner table at any given restaurant right here in Annapolis, we all get up, go on a field trip, and walk in. How many families of four, all four of them are on the phone with dinner on the table? Just texting away. Ain't nobody saying a word to each other. They get in the car. They turn the TV on, the kids on the phone. In the car. Come on, how have we seen wheels on the bus go round and around or something? Yeah. But we have to learn that it's in moderation. I like what you said about AI, right? Because we have to be able to change with the times. So let's not take away, let's set boundaries. And let those boundaries be what those boundaries need to be. You can be on the phone from this hour to this hour. Other than that, you got to go do something constructive. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and the thing, so thank you for all of that. And the thing about AI is, it's, you know, we have begun talking about it as if it's some futuristic robot that's going to appear real soon and take over. But the truth of the matter is, it's embedded in everything already. I mean, what we believe is just, you know, we're manipulating is actually being manipulated. So everything from Netflix, you know, what you watch on TV, what you think you're choosing, they've already predetermined for you and selected it. So are there any other questions from the audience or comments?
I'm Kenneth Askin. I'm not from Annapolis. I grew up in New Jersey. I lived here in Annapolis for a couple of years now.
All right.
So I got a quick question. You're talking a lot about the history and things like that. First, another thing is this is wonderful. I learned a lot about Annapolis and in the area. But what are we doing with the young people? Because I look around here, I don't see anybody of a younger age, maybe. I mean, how are we promoting the Annapolis history?
I'm young.
Programs or anything like that to help with to share the history with the youth?
Yes, we have, as was pointed out about historians. First of all, thank you for that question, and I'll jump it off because I do know that we have a lot of historians, you know, from Janice Hayes Williams to others who spend a lot of time working with young people. I myself, the reason why I have this crazy looking mustache is because I go to schools constantly during Black History Month, actually throughout the year, but mostly Black History Month, and I do speeches and talk with them about not only Black Marylanders, but also just the entire diaspora. And we have programming, everything from, you know, the guy sitting in the back, Adetola Ajayi, who works in the city of Annapolis in the mayor's office right there. He has a lot of programming that's, you know, focused on young people in all communities in the city of Annapolis. Everything from drone camps to, you know, gaming camps to photography to, I mean, music, all of those things. And then at this table right here, the young man in the middle here actually developed and sustained and implemented a lot of the programming for young people in the city of Annapolis. Utilizing not only taxpayers' money, but in a lot of cases, that, you know, the money that wasn't even there that we had to raise and just be sure that young people got to places like the Stanton Center. And you know, I'm sure you all could add. And I want to also, as we've said today, we can't forget that a lot of our churches, which are often overlooked and we don't talk about, but as an institution, you know, they do a lot of programming. They do a lot of camps. They do homeless shelters, they do, you know, they feed people in communities, but they also work with a lot of young people, you know, and help raise those young people. You know, I'm not sure if I missed anything.
I would just say there's never enough. No matter what, all that he has said, there's never, ever enough. So part of it is exposure. You need to know where to look to find out what's going on. And when it's hard to find out what's going on, oftentimes it's underutilized. So again, exposure, but we can never have enough programs. We can never have enough mentors. We can never have enough mentors for adults and children on how to start a business or how to write a grant or how to, all those things we can share. But there's never, ever enough because we need it that bad.
Who's the person that's in charge of this thing? So who do I reach out to? Because I'm a still photographer, 40 plus years. I'm over at the U.S. Naval Academy, GS employee. I'm a photographer.
Okay.
And about to retire, I'm looking to push some volunteering, mentorship.
Oh, there you go.
Showing how to start a business. I actually have a business I just started. Asking Photography LLC, covered a couple events for CP, things like that. That's not what I'm here to do. Or promote myself. I'm saying that I serve.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing at all wrong with that. I want you to, there's the handsome young man back there, and he just raised his hand. He doesn't want me to do it, but he's the person you should connect with. Yeah, and he'll, right there with the bald head. Yeah, and Lou Gossett Jr.
Well, hold on a second. What's the brother's name again? Yeah. Kenneth, stand up for me. I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Don't ever apologize for talking about what you do. Business ownership is business ownership. Nobody is going to sell what you do. Is that your wife? She might. She might be but nobody is going to sell that business and promote that business other than you. What a better platform to do it than right here. Right. We're streaming. If y'all need photography, look this brother up. I mean, let's be real. Let's be real about it. If you don't do that, how will folks know? And that's fine. I got you.
There you go.
But thank you. I just want to put you on the spot a little bit. And then the last piece, I just want to talk to what you said, right? So we understand it's a Tuesday night, it's a school night, kids got whatever, there's basketball games. I know the caucus is having a meeting, it's Black History Month in school, so they're absorbing, I guess, what they can for the month. So tonight may not be a super, from what you see, an example of you, but like he said, there's so much going on. There's so many projects that we're doing with property and history and the value of owning things, and like he said, workshops and toll in the back. So there's a ton. What I would encourage you to do is figure out what your level of comfortability is, and if it's photography, we can send you over to the Maryland Hall. There's a brother over there that runs the media, whatever, that's tied into Annapolis. Mm-hmm. There's so much going on here, but like Dr. Rowell said, there's never enough. Right? So we encourage you to engage. Welcome to Annapolis. Engage. Find your sweet spot, and you run with something that works for you. Right? And let's make it happen. All right? All right, there you go. All right, thanks for standing up, brother. Thanks for standing up. What you got, cuz?
Of course, this is my friend Shaheen that I've known for 40 years. And Shaheen has produced a website that he owns. That's carsbeach.com. It is fabulous. I mean, people just typically talk about a little bit about Cars Beach, but I think Shaheen has about, 40 artists or so?
Oh, about 100.
Okay, so you're wrong. That he's educating people about who is at Cars Beach.
Okay, what's the name of the site? Oh, well, hey. All right. Okay, carsbeach.com. I did some research from off there when we were doing the Cars Beach signing and the acquisition of the land. Yep.
It's absolutely the most comprehensive site that I've seen about Cars Beach thus far. So please go look at it.
I now connect Cars Beach to East Chester Avenue, Eastport.
And so we're about to wrap up. Are there any other questions or comments? I want to add from the Cars Beach thing, because that's a good full circle moment, is remembering that Cars Beach, even though we talked about all the artists and the entertainment, that just about everything we're talking about tonight existed within the Cars Beach complex, right? They sold their own food. They had, you were there, so, they had their own security, they had everything, right?
I was the one who climbed the fence and got in the trunk.
Yes.
You heard that boy can chase you right
That's right.
I repent now.
George Phelps, who knows who George Phelps was? All right, okay. So out of that, of course, he had his own security business. And even when we think about the number of people that worked for him, from Mulberry Hill and Browns Woods, from Gerald all the way down, right? I guess the moral of that story is, the collective mutual aid and being able to support one another is actually what allows us to be, like where we are. Where I stand is on the backs of people who helped raise me in the church, and people that were family members, and people that were neighbors. I think that for most of us, we wouldn't be able to have the story that we're telling, if it weren't for other people in our communities who had a vested interest in us succeeding, right?
I just had one more thing I wanted to say, and I guess I should have said it in the beginning. If we look at this in the perspective that Bates High School was the only black high school in Anne Arundel County. So if you lived as far down as the Calvert County line, as far up as the airport, and you were black, you came to Bates. There was no other school. So generation after generation after generation, either mother, father, sister, they all intertwine. And that's the fiber, some of the fiber that holds the black community together, because there's layers of it. The only black high school was right there for the entire county. So even if you lived in Skidmore or Eastport, you shared a commonality, because my mother graduated with your uncle, and they were classmates together. That whole thing. So that connectivity, Bates had a lot to play into that, because that's where all of them went.
That's right.
All of them. I'm done now.
That's right. Sparrows, and we're talking about strong black women too, who not only owned and operated, but knew how to, work out a deal, make sure they, they got what they needed. So this is.
I just wanted to ask a question, because I didn't know that about Bates. And you mentioned people walking from Littleton.
No, not
Loki. Sorry.
Which is
Very far. Very far. So how did kids get to school? There were no buses, were there?
Most of them rode with, and if you look at the Naval Academy and Crownsville being the largest employer in the county, a lot of people who were coming to Annapolis to work at the working dock in Annapolis, or dropping off for the hospital after the time that, the black people were allowed in Anne Arundel General Hospital. But everybody, you caught a ride, you caught somebody going to work, and they made sure you got there. Exactly, that speaks to exactly what he was talking about.
We had black people did own buses.
Yeah.
And they brought kids to the school.
No,
they own buses.
actually where I live, at the end of my driveway, Thomas Bus Company. The barn is still, it's a piece of it still there, but I drive past it twice a day, out the driveway and coming in, and just remember still the history of that being the bus company that was owned by us, that did a lot of the transportation in Anne Arundel County, right? So when Mr. Holt was talking about walking, if you missed that ride she's talking about, you missed it. You need to go to school. How you get there? Walk or bike. And having a bike was that was a luxury, right? So you had to get it done, yep.
All
All right.
Introduce yourself first.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adetola Ajayi. I'm the African American Community Service Specialist for the Mayor's Office. So just wanted to thank the panelists, Derek, Archie, Dr. Rowell, and William Rowel. But I'd like to thank all of you for coming out and everyone watching. I did want to touch on a couple of things. My grandfather, Carol Mickey Hunt, He was actually a auxiliary security with Judge Phelps. So I know a little bit about Carr's Beach and that experience. But to the young man about be talking about the photography, just to let you know, like the young man in the back, we did a program this summer with Exclusive Art Media, where we worked with several neighborhood youth to do photography, and these are pop-up camps. So pop-up camps meaning like we just go into the community one day and we introduce them to this technology. So that's through our No Harm program, which is under the mayor's office, which is a violence prevention program. We also have a substance abuse program, prevention program called Naptown Anti-Dope, which we inform the community about the ills of opioid abuse and just substance abuse in general. But thank you all, and we're here for the next 2 weeks, every Tuesday.
All right. As Tola said, every Tuesday for Black History Month, right here in this room, and you will be fed every time. So tell your friends, I mean, not just about the food, but I mean, if that gets them in the room, I'm just joking. But, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family, tell people that you think should be here. The goal is always to have a diverse population of people, as well as he mentioned, young people. But pray for all those that you think should be in this space, and also all those that you want to be healthy and continue on. And I thank you all for being here tonight.